Welcome to Shooting Spaces, and it's another wonderful roundtable discussion, our new thing this year. And Brian, how are you?
I am good. We're getting into the dog days of summer over here, so it's not
Mhm.
bad.
Yeah, it's great out here in California. It's been the coolest June I can remember, and now it's going to be over 100 later in the week, so we're back to normal, which kind of sucks, but you get used to it. It's a cool heat. It's okay. So,
Over a
what do we
hundred,
got going
no matter
on?
how you look at it, over 100, it's not cool. That's hot.
You know what? You got it, you can't complain at 105 because when it gets to be 115, you got to say something. So that's it's okay. But
Yeah,
I digress.
yeah. For
So
some reason,
Brian,
we
tell
always end
us.
up talking about weather, Rich. I don't, I don't know why, but
Well,
weather.
you know what? We can talk about work. How is business? Business is good. Business is moving.
Yeah, I mean, business is business. It's going.
Okay.
It's weird. June for me is always like a weird month. I don't know if it's the same for you. And I guess we can find out more about different
Kids are
months of the
going to
year
school.
because
Kids are home from school. Yeah.
yeah, we can find out a little bit more about different months of the year and how it affects different categories in our industry in a few minutes. But yeah, June is always a weird month because the spring
Yeah.
is bumping, and July and August is usually, yeah, I guess you're right. It's school's ending
Well,
and
people are
camps
busy.
beginning and people are everywhere.
Mhm.
It's just kind of a
Yeah.
weird month. But anyway, yeah. So as you tried to cue me into a few times and I ignored you, we have we have a wonderful episode today with our three sponsors, and I'm pretty excited because the three of you have been with us for I don't know what 3 years now, 4 years, something like that, and we've never had all of you on a show together. So it's pretty cool, and we're gonna kind of go at different trends and what they're each seeing in our industry for the first half of this year, from each of their respective categories in the industry. So we have Herb from HD Photo Hub. You guys all know HD Photo Hub, and we have Chris from iGuide or Planetar, which is I guess the parent company, and Devon from PhotoUp. So thank you all for joining us today. And, we're going to start in the order of the reads we normally do. So before we get into it with HD Photo Hub, let's hear a quick word from them. HD Photo Hub is the complete solution for any photography business that needs a professional white label platform that automates payment collection, scheduling, and photo delivery, all without monthly contracts or fees. HD Photo Hub is all about your business and your brand. They don't put their logo on any of your order forms or sites, and they even integrate with the email services and automation tools you are already using today. Hey, they even have live customer support to help you get started. Visit hdphotohub.com and sign up for a free one-on-one demo or live webinar to learn more. All right, so we are back, and let's start it off with Herb from HD Photo Hub. And Herb, you've been on the show before. We had an episode with you not talking about your product. It was actually about masterminds, and we actually did receive a lot of feedback from that. I don't know if you did as well, but we received a lot of feedback from people that really loved that episode and people that actually went out and started mastermind groups from that. So it was a well-received episode, so thanks for coming on for that one.
Yeah, thanks. Well, thanks for having me. It's always good to talk to you guys. I love seeing you in Vegas, and when we occasionally get together on a podcast, that's super fun too. So I appreciate being here.
Sure. So I feel like we don't need to kind of go into a pitch about what you do because everyone hears it every week. But essentially your end of the business is delivery. That's kind of what you do. You help everyone. Well, it's more than that actually now. I guess you started as delivery, but now you do pretty much business management, I guess is the best word for it. So, but since you started with delivery, let's talk about, I guess, delivery versus marketing kits versus websites, different stuff that you're seeing in that regard. Because, let's say for me, for instance, and I'm not the norm. I get it because I maybe do 15 residential real estate shoots a year now. So, take it with a grain of salt. But for me, I use you for delivery services. I upload my images, and I've actually done a bunch of real estate recently. You've probably seen a little uptick in my deliveries in the last month or two. But nevertheless, it's great for just sending images to clients to download. It's simple. It's like, Rich, I know you use Dropbox still, but it's basically like a glorified Dropbox. It just looks nicer. It's a better presented Dropbox. But you also offer websites, this and that, so all different stuff. So Let's talk about, your basic download delivery sites versus websites, and what you're kind of seeing on the delivery side of things when us real estate photographers deliver our I don't want to say images anymore, because now it's media, deliver our media to
Right.
to their clients. And then you can talk
Yeah.
about that too in regards to images versus other content.
Yeah. Yeah. So as it relates to deliveries versus what we call a marketing kit, where you get like you said, the property website and all the social media tools, we're running about half and half. So about half of the things that are delivered just simply like a Dropbox, where it's just a download, and about half are coming with the full kit. We've seen, comparing the beginning of this year compared to the beginning of last year, we've seen a slight reduction, about 5% reduction in the amount of marketing kits. And so it's kind of tilting more towards the delivery side. But what I find really
But is it
fascinating.
just a reduction, or it's like a switch over? Like, have you seen a 5%
Well,
increase on the other side to compensate
yeah,
for that?
no.
Or
So yeah, it's the balance. So it's shifted. So what's interesting is that the marketing kits have stayed basically flat, and the deliveries have been more of an increase. But what's really interesting about this, and I'm sure we'll get more into this as we go, is that what we're seeing is a lot of new businesses signing up on the platform, and so we're seeing overall the volume is down, which is just a result of the real estate market. With listings being 20 to 25% lower than the same period last year, has just affected everybody in a negative way. But what we're seeing is a lot of smaller companies are jumping in and getting organized, and sort of getting away from the Dropbox approach and getting into something where one platform kind of organizes everything. So it used to be that we mostly worked with companies that had a team of shooters and were working at really scaling up, and we still had several that were single shooters, but we're just seeing a huge influx in that, which I think it's an interesting. I'd love to get everyone else's take on, like, maybe why that seems to be the case. I don't know if it's people coming in from other industries because real estate's maybe a little more stable than event photography, or what, but it's just there's a lot of newbies jumping in.
yeah, it's strange that you say that, because, and I have absolutely no stats to prove that. And my thought process on this is just what I've seen primarily in the Facebook groups and at PMRE the last few years. And I feel like maybe because real estate photography is, the whole concept of it is broadening out to other genres, like you said. But I've been in this industry about 10 years now. Rich, you're what, 10, 15 years now, give or take. I feel like in the last 3 years, there's been a bigger influx of newbies than in any other period before over the last 10 or 15 years. I mean, do you feel the same way, Rich? You're involved in the Facebook communities and everything.
Yeah, I'm actually involved in one of the groups, beginner real estate photography for beginners and advanced, and I see a lot of people coming in. And I wanted to ask you, I think one sign that newbies are coming in is a lot of people are doing HDR now. And, thank God that well, I guess thank God that the quality of HDR has gone way up. I mean, at least in my experience and for what I see, it's still, I can still spot it, which, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it really just shows me that there are a lot of new people, and there are a lot of people that I do a lot of coaching too. I've seen a lot of people coming from other genres. Like for me, weddings, COVID completely shut down weddings. We had about 4 last year. This year, we're only doing a couple, but weddings are down. Sports are down for me. All kinds of stuff is down. And I guess a lot of people think that real estate is really easy. And when you come in with the knowledge that you have in other genres and you are doing HDR, it really lets you be a player, lets you, easily get into it. You don't need to know how to use the equipment. You don't need to know, or, basically. And no, I think that that's a good sign, a sign that yes, a lot of new photographers are coming in.
Well, I think the wedding side of things, it brings a lot. I mean, a lot of people come from I was in the wedding industry for years, and you're primarily working on the weekends. So I think when you look at it and you're like, when you're a wedding photographer and you say, I have all this gear and it's just sitting, and from Monday through Thursday, I'm not doing anything with it. What other genre of photography can I do where I can stay busy during the week and use the gear I already own and all this time that I already have? I mean, I don't want to say all this time because, busy wedding photographers are busy all the time, but, what can I do with all this equipment during those 4 days where I'm not really working, if you're primarily working Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, and make some extra money? So it's an easy way for them to switch because there's a low cost of entry. Like you said, with HDR, it's easy to get in quickly without needing a tremendous amount of skills. And I'm not trying to knock anyone that does HDR by saying you don't have skills, but in the same sense, this is a whole different discussion. I think we've talked about this, Rich, on the last episode where we were talking about HDR versus other methods. And, we kind of said at the end of the day, you're a service provider. So if you're able to get the service that your clients need out for a decent price and make a good living, do whichever way works for you. That's the best way to do it. But yeah, there's definitely an influx of newbies.
Well, I think there's also a lot of value in real estate photography because of the recurring revenue component of it, right? Like you get a couple of agents that you work with and you get regular gigs, where with a wedding, probably you're only going to shoot once for that.
Yeah, no, exactly. Person. No, for sure. Look, on the higher end side of weddings, let's say you're doing a wedding for $10,000 on an average higher end wedding, your annual invoicing to one agent can be $20,000, $30,000, and that's every year. So for sure, 100%.
I think if I can jump in real quick, just seeing, I mean, we try to talk to pretty much every sign up that we have, and we've seen similar thing to Herb, a lot of newbies joining, just not big enough necessarily to afford to need kind of a full-time editor type deal. But we've seen people from all over the place, some photographers, right? Some people in wedding and event. We've seen a lot of people jump in from the corporate space, especially during COVID, right? Either lost a job or wanted to kind of restructure their career and do something a little bit more flexible. And now I think we're seeing kind of an influx of people from all over the place. A lot of people side hustling right out there who want kind of a secondary income and just kind of start this thing on the side. And I still have my corporate gig, but I want to shoot this, or I've been approached by a realtor, or I am a realtor, and I want to shoot photos as well. So it has grown. It continues to grow from what we've seen. We've actually almost doubled the number of signups from 2022 to 23 in the first 6 months of the year here. So yeah, I mean, that trend is not going away by any means. And what that means for the industry, I'm not sure. Probably photographers out there are seeing a lot of competition in their area, right? A lot of new people trying to undercut them, trying to be the winner on price to get their foot in the door. It's something we never encourage. The issue with people who are just starting out and trying to be the winner on price is you're going to shoot yourself in the foot, right? You're not only going to sweep the rug out from under people, but you're going to disvalue the service greatly to everybody in your area. So that's just little takeaway that I've seen too.
Yeah.
Well,
so one of the cool things that we have the ability to do, since we are sort of the business platform for so many people, is rather than just looking at what our products are, looking at sort of what shopping cart, what's flowing through shopping carts for photographers that use our platform. And I was actually a little surprised when I was digging into this data. One of the things that I was expecting to find was that the number of products that would be going up. The people bolting on things like video and 3D tours and drone shoots and twilights and virtual staging, all that good stuff. There's still a lot of it happening, but it doesn't seem to be growing. So let me throw out some stats, and I'd love to hear what you guys what your take on some of this stuff is. So looking at several hundred companies using our platform, comparing beginning of last year to the beginning of this year, 45% of them grew in their number of shoots and 55% shrank. So some did grow, and almost half, but more shrank than grew. And again, I think that's probably just the market. If we were to adjust that number to the number of listings, it'd probably be very different. But here's where it gets crazy to me. So if we look at just the businesses that are growing, that block of businesses had a 51.2% increase in the number of agents that they're working with, and a 57% increase in the number of orders, but only a 5% increase in the average order value. So the amount of money they're making per invoice went up about 5%. But the big difference actually isn't the dollars per invoice, it's the number of agents.
So that's interesting that they're getting more clients, but their ticket prices are not going up.
Right. They're a little, right?
A little, yeah.
But not, they're not going down, right? They're not getting more agents by cutting costs. To Devon's point, like they're not cannibalizing the market, but they're hustling. Now here's the comparison. So for the companies that are shrinking, they had a 9% reduction in the number of agents that they're working with for the first half of the year. So a little, not as big, but those agents are going somewhere, right? And 15% reduction in the number of orders, 2.3% increase in the average order value. So their increase wasn't as big, but everybody's raising their prices and getting more per invoice, a little more. But it seems like the big difference maker right now between the companies that are growing and the companies that are shrinking is the number of agents.
It's interesting, Herb, because we used to, and this was probably just before the pandemic, really. It used to be a common phrase that we'd hear from people signing up and saying that I don't need any help with marketing, right? I've got all the business I need. I've got, clients coming over in left and right, hand over fist, and I don't need any help marketing. Not the case anymore, right? And that, I think, just proves it. Your stats right there. And that they need to get out there. You need to be marketing yourself. You need to be having a good social media presence, website, right? Email marketing, whatever it is, to gain those agents, right? Word of mouth is great, and it does help, and it does kind of get you going. But at some point, you need to be doing something more to get that. And we've seen it too. We have virtual assistants that we offer now, and one of our fastest growing kind of avenues with virtual assistants is a marketing VA, somebody to just go out and help you do that email lead generation, reach out to realtors, get you warm leads, because that's what you need to kind of stay above the competition right now, because there are so many little guys coming in trying to cannibalize everything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here's another one that stood out to me, and this one just makes no sense to me at all. But if you look at if you take out the 10% highest and lowest in the price of the orders, the growing businesses, the average order total is between $175 and $200. That's the range. 80% of their orders are in the range of $175 and $200 for the invoice total. But if you look at the shrinking businesses and look at the same thing, their middle 80%, the range is $135 to $387. So it feels like what that maybe means is that the growing businesses are more disciplined. They're focusing on what it is that they're promoting and they're offering, and the companies that are struggling are maybe just a little more all over the map. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this is so interesting to me because there's been a big push in the last year or two for us all to become media content providers and not just photographers. Specifically like PM Murray, for instance, became a media conference, not a photographer conference. And, with becoming media providers, the fallout would be higher ticket prices, but apparently that's not the case. What you're seeing is not the case. So it's like, maybe that's just not where the industry is going. It's strange.
Well, so actually, these are the last couple stats I have, and then I'll pass the the torch. But it's a good transition because the other things I looked at was what are the types of products that are being bolted on. And so for video's seeing an increase. So 13.1% a year ago up to 15.8% in this year of listings have some type of video connected to it. So it's not a massive leap, but it is
higher.
It is growing. It's continuing to move in to be a thing that people want. And then in the 3D tours category, this one surprised me a little bit. We're actually slightly down. So we're 13.1% and it's down to 12.8. So it's basically level, but it's down slightly. What I noticed in that is we're still sort of responding from the COVID spike. There was a massive increase in 3D tours in 2020, massive, and it's been our normal is still it's about double what it was before COVID, but it's coming in for a landing a little bit. And I'll just throw this out there for transition over to Chris. What's interesting about that though is that not all of the 3D tour providers are so the category is shrinking slightly, but not equally. And iGuide is actually one that's growing. So give you that little plug there, Chris.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
There you go. You're making our transitions easy. You can do it for us.
What a segue. Wow.
Exactly. So Chris, as we jump into you, as always, first I want to give a quick word from you guys so everyone knows a little bit about you and sit tight.
Are you looking to expand your real estate photography business? Stand out from the crowd by offering 3D tours, accurate room measurements, square footage calculations, and professionally drafted floor plans, all from the click of a button with the state-of-the-art iGuide camera system. Get your first 5 standard iGuides up to 3,000 square feet free by adding the code Shooting Spaces in the referral section at camera purchase. Visit goiguide.com to learn more.
All right. Thank you for your commercial, Chris. And, Herb left us with an easy segue. So let's, from your point of view, I mean, he said his 3D numbers overall are down. Are you seeing similar numbers on, I would say, your regular customers? I'm sure we all have one-offs here and there and stuff like that. But, your regular, typical real estate photographers that are producing, several of these a week, are those numbers declining?
So yes and no. It's complicated. So we've noticed that in some areas, and for some people things are down, and for others they're up. So it's probably going to echo some of the things Herb just said as well. But overall, things are a little different in Canada versus the US. So we're finding we have a lot of experience, obviously, because I live here in Canada. But it's more down here than it is there. But we're noticing that we have a lot of traction, and we're not losing any. In fact, we're probably gaining market share in areas where measurement is important. So iGuide and floor plans and measurement are very connected. So we're seeing that not diminish to any great degree. But I think you guys mentioned this earlier. We're noticing that more shrank than grew. But the bigger players are the ones that have grown. And they've done it in a few sort of, interesting ways. And I don't know if it's like this across all North America, but we're seeing, unrealistic pricing and sometimes second listings where you would have only have had a first one. And it's definitely pushing, iGuide users that I can see in a certain, direction. And that seems to be, expansion. So that's moving outside their geographic region. I was surprised you guys hadn't said anything about that, but that's something we really saw in the data was that, I can't, show it to you, but the people are moving further afield, so that's kind of interesting. That's giving the bigger guys an advantage. So they have more people, they're more spread out, so they can send people further afield. And then we're noticing a huge uptick in adjacent services. So, like COVID gave, digital representations of space a pretty big tailwind. That we haven't seen that go away. It's pretty steady, but we're seeing people, diving more into the product and getting more out of the features. First off, so iGuide's complicated. There's a lot of stuff. So I think they're working harder on that second listing. to get more out of that. So that's just using things like analytics and trying to understand what's happening with the property and putting in them. And it's probably because they have more time because the house isn't selling in 3 hours, you know. So the adjacent services that I'm talking about are things outside of residential real estate. So we offer enhanced draft services, which is essentially like, you know, it's floor plans, but they're fancier. They're like for AutoCAD or whatever. And those are, used by architects and engineers, and they're like AIA compatible and that kind of stuff. So those services are way up, like it's crazy. And we're also noticing a big uptick in, and that's our service providers providing that to their clients above and beyond the sale. So, you know, after the fact, selling that format to someone like an architect or designer. Our sort of philosophy at iGuide is that we create data for the lifetime of the property, the full life cycle. So, you know, during the real estate process, obviously there's that marketing that occurs where people are documenting a property. So 3D tour, you know, has become far more normal along with photos and floor plans. But then outside of that, there's, you know, what happens after someone buys a house? Well, they want to redesign it. So that's pushed people into these other services that we offer, which is cool, you know, no complaints. It's pretty neat. People are trying harder because, you know, maybe things are a little slower. We also have services for insurance and restoration, where we have an output that can be used by independent adjusters or public adjusters. And we're seeing a huge upswing on that as well. The interesting thing, I think, was the talking about how, you know, there's a lot of new people. We see that too, absolutely. And they often, buy into our system like aspirationally, which is great. But they don't know anything about how to run a business, well, not yet anyway. And often they think it's a turnkey way to just, you know, get into the real estate photography business, like through iGuide. And, you can't really be a fully featured real estate marketer without really great photos. So we're seeing a lot of people buying into the iGuide system and then investigating real estate photography and all the resources that go along with that. So that's kind of interesting. And that echoes what you guys were saying. So that's kind of cool.
Well, let me stop you for a second and ask you about the signups, because all three of you have said that you're seeing an increase of signups, but that doesn't directly translate into customers necessarily. So from all three of your sides of it, because, you know, I come from it from a different angle. I'm technically your guys' client. What's the value of a sign up that might not necessarily turn into a customer? Like, is a sign up as valuable as a paying customer at this point? I mean, you know, they're an email address you have.
So at iGuide, we don't have signups. We have people who buy into our system.
Okay.
So if they use it, that's great. If they don't, then they don't, you know.
Okay. Yeah. I guess you're a little bit different because you have hardware too that you're selling. So, you know, if someone doesn't buy the hardware, they're not a customer or they're not a sign up. But I guess, so let me redirect that to the other two. Sorry, Chris.
It's okay. It's fine.
Because
I'll stop talking, I guess. Whatever.
So, I mean, a sign up for us
Chris,
is
go put your kids to bed and come back in 2
Okay,
minutes.
I'll be back. I'll get a tea. Yeah.
a sign up for us is really just an opportunity to engage with a new customer, right? So, we're seeing a lot of new signups, but we're also seeing a lot of new customers, as you know, in proportion. And we're making a lot of new friends.
So I mean, you might not have a stat on this, but what's that number of signups that turn into a recurring customer? So
for us, it's in the first month, it's pretty close to 50%.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But you know, we continue to reach out, and one of the things that we've actually had recently that we've noticed is that we have a bunch of people that signed up several years ago when they first heard about us, and kind of took a look and were like, I don't know, maybe, and didn't really didn't sign up or didn't engage fully, and are coming around and taking a second look because we've added so many new things to the platform. So it's been fun to talk to people again that we talked to years ago, and to hear the excitement in their voice of all the new things that we've offered or added. So
Are you having
Yeah,
people like explore your services more now? Like just, they have more incentive to get in there and get more out of it?
Yeah, the thing that I keep hearing is people saying, I've been just kind of putting along, and now it's time for me to get organized. I need to get serious. I need to get all my ducks in a row.
Got to commit.
Yeah, and I'm tired of using 3 different platforms and spreadsheets and billing over here and orders over there and delivery over that. You know what I mean? Like, so that's the probably the most common refrain that we've been hearing is people are maybe just tired of the disorganization or the chaos. And Lord knows we've had plenty of chaos the last 5 years.
You know what it is?
I
think people, because I know I was there 10 years ago, I think people don't realize that real estate photography can be a business until they realize it's a business. And then they have to start, do job here, job here. If I throw in an Excel spreadsheet, that's fine. And then, they realize they just shot, 50 jobs in a month. Wow. Or whatever it is, 100 jobs. Like, I need to get organized and make this a business.
Yeah. And it actually relates really great to Devon's business, right? Because at a certain point, people get busy enough that they feel like they have to figure out how to get their evenings back. They're tired of doing all the editing, or they're tired of managing all the business. And our platform is one piece of that puzzle because it helps put everything in one place. But outsourcing editing is a huge one, right? For getting that back.
I think, yeah. I mean, thanks, Urban. I think our clients are probably very similar in that sense, right? Of coming in, let me try you out. Like, I'm just getting started, or I don't have enough business for it to fully make sense for me. I mean, for us, specifically for PhotoUp, I mean, a sign up is, like Herb said too, an opportunity. We have on-demand services, right? They're a little bit more expensive. We offer free credits to do a trial of any of our services. So we have a lot of people obviously doing that. But then obviously for us, a lifetime value drastically increases when somebody signs up for a subscription, and you need to be kind of the right size to be able to sign up for one of our subscriptions. Now, in the past, though, for us at least, we did a big pricing pivot over the last year where we offer a lot smaller plans, as low as like just $9 a month, to get some editing and get access into some of our software as well, some property websites, virtual tours, things like that. So we've seen specifically on our side, on PhotoUp side, an uptick in signups. I think a lot due to the fact that we are offering these lower plans, smaller plans for the beginner photographer, right? For somebody just getting in. And for us, just to be able to get them on a monthly subscription, right? Use us regularly, right? Get our emails regularly, get outreach from us. Let us talk to you about your business. Let us connect you. If you have questions about, say, delivery or some other things, can we connect you with the right people, right? Herb and I have an integration together between PhotoUp and HD Photo Hub. So there are things that we want to do to help connect the dots, because I don't think any of us does everything for a real estate photographer. I think we all do bits and pieces that are here today. And if we can connect the dots better, we just raise the water level, right? If that tide rises, those ships rise with it, and our clients all kind of benefit from us being able to provide better value together.
Makes sense.
One thing I will say, I want to also segue into something else, if I can. But one thing, payments. I am getting, it's crazy at tax time because I'm doing Venmo, PayPal, Zelle, all the other. I mean, it's really, really becoming. I try to get creative with my clients too. Hey, if you need to pay me that way or this way or whatever, but if you can consolidate payments, that would be a huge ease on my end. I'm not quite ready to change my payment options, but it's just something I've really noticed in the past year or two. And the other thing is, I would like to segue into AI, and with the new Photoshop offerings of remove things, which I'm too chicken to do the beta because I just can't afford any downtime at all on a computer. But I will say it's very exciting. But I would like to ask you guys, because I know that out there, people are, especially the new people, are freaking out, going, I don't know if they're freaking out, but they're really concerned. how is this going to affect my business? And I'm kind of happy that I'm at the end of my tenure because I'm excited about AI, but I have no idea. I mean, in general, the future kind of scares me, and AI is one of those things. But what do you guys think? And let me start with Chris, because Chris, you haven't talked as much as
I'm a chatty guy. Yeah, give me a chance.
you usually.
Let me get
talk
it
a
out.
lot.
You know.
So,
Yeah, Chris, I'm
what do you
sorry.
think about?
We interrupted you before.
Oh, yeah,
So I
okay,
apologize.
I'm going to take extra
but
time.
now that you're back, from putting your kids down.
Yeah.
AI is it's funny.
Anyway, thanks, Chris. Herb, what do you? Oh, sorry.
That's right. Okay. Glad to be here. Thank you.
So, as far as AI, what do you think it's going to do, and is it going to really change the business to everybody, or some people, or what?
Well, even more specifically you, Chris, because I think this plays into more you than any of the three of you there, because you're actually providing a media content to people versus PhotoUp and HD PhotoUp.
I got to use
in the future. You're going to be
day, so we're in it.
Everybody's going to do their 360, and then they're going to get their stills off their 360. Come on, man, you've got stuff coming up.
AI is beyond weird. The stuff it can do is the real deal. Like, it's crazy. I'll give you a funny example. So we do marketing image all the time, showing the product, and there's a guy holding the tablet or whatever. And sometimes you have a really good stock photo of a guy holding a clipboard, and you just marquee tool, and then you put in the prompt, like, change to tablet, and like, that's it. It's a tablet. Like, it's magic. It's crazy. But we use
I probably removed like 8 cars from shots this week in under
awesome
3 minutes.
It's
insane. It's insane.
I did our office for a photo, and I removed the cars, and then for fun I was like, oh, what if I put better cars in? And so I put in like some scooters and some Porsches and stuff. Like, why not?
But
right?
I mean, I've missed a room or something, and I've taken a 360 photo. I've cropped out a photo out of a 360, and it's not great, but it's doable. But the future is going to be, oh my God.
Yeah, it's a bit bonkers.
There'll be no reason to take pictures.
So we at iGuide, we fully embraced AI. It's in our draft process. Like, we use it to make floor plans every day. So yep, it is what it is. The apply. Okay, I'm trying to be positive about it because it is kind of terrifying, if I'm being honest. So
you're positive, it's terrifying.
Yeah, I'm very confident that it's terrifying. It's like turbocharging everything we're doing. Like everything, all of our copywriting, the floor plan generation. And so there was always some doubt about, where we were going in terms of what the future would look like. There's not a doubt anymore. There's going to be a point in time where you go to a property as like a real estate photographer, someone who's going to, run the full gamut of whatever it is you're doing there. So that means measuring or whatever. And you're going to do that. And then you're just going to hand it to your client, like, there, that's it. It's done. Here you go. Enjoy. Like, it's that fast. So that's scary and it's strange, but things are getting just really quick. Like, instead of it taking 2 weeks to do floor plans, it takes a day. And then instead of a day, it takes 6 hours. Instead of 6 hours, it takes 5 minutes. And everything's going to be like that. Photo editing is a great example. Like, what used to take me, oh my God, like an eternity to mask out like skies, like, it's like one click now. It's nuts. So that means that, the threshold, whatever the end product is, will then be even greater. So I prefer to think of it like, less like dumping gasoline on a fire and more like attaching, rocket boosters to your shoes. You can move faster.
I wonder,
where are you? Let me just say one thing. Where are you, Chris, in your thoughts as far as, is the agent going to be able to bypass the photographer? I think that it won't, but it may, some of them, but there will always be agents that need handholding and the service.
Yeah. Well,
but where do you think that's going to go?
People who document properties have a fundamentally completely different job than people who are trying to sell those properties. I worked with tons of agents who had way better cameras than me, and they didn't use them. They hired me because they already have a job. You know what I mean? So that's never going to change, or it's not going to change in the near future, even with AI supercharging everything. There's always this fear that the next iPhone is going to come out and it's going to have AI and it's going to replace everybody. But that's not going to happen. So we know that. So at iGuide, we get a really good sense of that, because when you're documenting a property, you're doing a lot more than just taking photos of very specific locations for marketing purposes. You're doing all sorts of really strange things. You go into closets and go into garages and gross places. So the act of capturing that data is something that requires thought and knowledge and skill. And we try to make it easy, but like photography is just like that as well. Like it requires thought, knowledge, and skill. Like, a good example is basic camera position, right? If I take a photo from the middle of a room, it's going to look fundamentally different than if I take it from a corner. So something is like AI can't fix that. It's we can get close maybe, but it's going to take a while before that happens.
Yeah, but one thing I'm worried about, and I'll ask this to you, Devon, because we should transition to you anyway, is from a post-production side. For instance, I did a shoot, I don't know, whatever it is, a month ago, 3 weeks ago. It was an outdoor shoot, and I'll give you an example, there were electric wires everywhere, and my client asked me to pull them all off. And I said, that's a very intensive edit, it's gonna be $150. And they said yes. And I selected the whole thing, and in under 15 seconds with AI, they were all gone. And I delivered it, and the client said it looks beautiful. So where's that point where I don't want to say like we're taking advantage of them that because it's so easy with AI, like they don't know, but that bubble is going to eventually burst and realize that Photoshop has this tool where you can select it and remove and do anything you want. Are they going to stop asking for these corrections because for $10 a month or whatever, to $20 a month, they can have Photoshop and literally do it themselves in 10 seconds, or have their
hire somebody in the office to do it?
Yeah, literally 3 buttons. So I'm kind of curious, maybe not from the shooting, because I agree with you, Chris, the shooting side of things, there's innate skills that you need to know, composition, lighting, this and that. But from the post-production side, like some of this stuff is so easy. It's not even easy. You don't need to know anything. You need to know how to make a selection. As simple as that.
No, we've been keeping a pretty close eye, obviously, on AI for a while. And this Photoshop, generative fill, the beta versions, like we've tested around with all of it. It's incredible. It's scary, to Chris's point, right? And to your point too, Brian, it's super easy, right, to do some of this stuff. But the keyword there is some, I think, right now, right? It can't do everything. We've been working with our own AI algorithms to do things like blend HDR photos, to do things like handle flambient images, right? Fill in window masks. There's still the full photo edit is not capable of being done very well with AI yet, right? I'll say yet at this point. You still need a human in that loop, and you still need somebody that knows what the heck they're doing to know the nuances of a full photo edit, especially when you're editing an entire batch of photos from a house, making sure the rooms and the colors are matching, right? There's a lot of nuance to it still that can't fully be done with AI yet, but there is a ton. What we're finding is it's just able to make us more efficient. Things like sky replacements, things like object removals, right? To your point too, Brian, about even removing the cords and the wires, that's still something you have to do, right? That's still something you're going back in and you're taking time to do. Now, granted, it's taking you a lot less time, but that's what it comes down to, is efficiency and I think opportunity cost, right? You're not having to spend as much time doing that. We're eventually not going to have to spend as much time editing. Can we pass that time and cost savings along to the client to make you guys even faster and more efficient, where you can shoot additional homes during the day, right? You're getting turnaround times instead of 24 hours in 5 hours, in 4 hours, in 20 minutes, right? There's ways that we are trying to leverage that and then pass that savings and efficiency onto our clients that we've been working on now, honestly, for years, right? We obviously have a massive data set of photos that we are trying to leverage, right? Not shopping it around, using it internally, but to try to create our own AIs that are going to help you guys at the end of the day. We have already built it into some of our tools. Our 360 virtual tours actually have AI editing in them. So with just a click of a button, you can go ahead and have your photos, your 360s, AI edited. That enhances the exposure. It does your white balancing. It does color correction. I mean, it actually is very impressive. Now, we haven't gone that far with just normal photo editing yet. Again, we've been testing it and it's been multiple years. It's just not there. It's not something that I'm willing to put our stamp of approval behind and say, hey, upload all your HDR brackets and go ahead and spit out an image that looks great. It doesn't. You still need a human in that loop for the most part. And then there are certain things that you can have AI enhance that definitely do make life easier, right? And certain tools that we're looking at to say, hey, if we within the PhotoUp platform can have some of these AI tools built in, so you don't have to download the photos, upload them back to Photoshop, right? Do your editing there. If you could do it on the fly, if you could do it from your phone, right? Is that going to be a time savings and a cost savings to you that you can then pass on to your clients in some way, shape, or form? Or maybe not, to Brian's point, charge them $150, take 2 seconds, whatever. And I think there will be a time for that. But again, like you said too, Brian, everything's going to kind of catch up. And we're trying to be on the forefront as much as we can.
So basically you're saying we're good for at least 6 months.
You got
Like
6
3 or
months.
4
We all
weeks,
got
it's
6
fine.
months left. And then you won't even know
Or
if you'll be
less.
talking to me right now. It just might be an AI bot over here.
And Brian, it sounds like you should give up what you're doing and just go into photo retouching. It seems
You're
like
great
it's
at
a
it.
much better profit
I should just draw
We're
more.
always hiring, Brian.
Just
we're
draw
always hiring.
selections all day. That's all I got to do.
You could.
Mhm.
Just
You
know
know,
how
I
to touch,
think-
type, and draw selections. I'm good.
I've been in this business for like 25 years, and I've heard this complaint of, oh no, the next iPhone is going to take away the photographer the entire time. Like even like when the first digital cameras were coming onto the scene. And I've also heard it in the real estate space where, real estate agents are always wondering if the internet or AI is going to displace the real estate agent and enable for sale by owners in a way that doesn't currently exist. And, the thing, it's never happened. Like that none of those industries have gone away. And I think one of the fundamental things to keep in mind is that any tool in an agent's hand is going to be even more powerful in the hand of a trained professional real estate photographer. So it's an amplifier. And if your skill can be amplified, you'll end up at a better place than anything somebody who's not a professional of that craft will be able to deliver. You'll always have an edge, even with simple things like composition, but in lighting and those types of things. But here's the other part that I think is easy to overlook. When a real estate agent gets a high-end listing and they have a professional photographer come in to shoot the home, compared to them shooting it with their iPhone, there's a certain experiential component on the part of the home seller that they're delivering as well. Like you can make a cup of coffee at home for 10 cents. Why does Starbucks make the money they make selling coffee? Yeah. It's because there's an experience component. And actually, I think that's one of the things that I've, when I've been given the chance to am always encouraging real estate photographers to remember is they are a concierge service for that agent. And so they're extending the agent's brand on their behalf, and that sort of white glove treatment with whatever minimal interactions that can possibly happen with the homeowners, whatever that good bedside manner is that you can deliver, that good service. It's not replaceable by technology. It's just not.
And I gotta say, my clients hire me because I'm me, and I have a way of talking to the homeowner, the seller. I have this way of just taking them under my wing and just going through them and easing their anxiety. And it's a big deal, and my clients respect it. So that's something you can't get it with AI. Not at least for 6 months. So.
Got that charisma. AI doesn't have any charisma.
We can make charisma. No.
Not for at least a few weeks,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, Devon, let's jump into some of your numbers because we didn't get there yet and we're running low on time. Before we do, as we've done before, let's hear a little commercial from PhotoUp.
Let's face it, editing sucks. It sucks time, it sucks money, and it sucks resources away from your business and your family. That's why PhotoUp has changed the game. PhotoUp allows you to work one-on-one with an experienced editor that is 100% dedicated to you and your business. Photographers with a PhotoUp dedicated editor say their edits are good or amazing 98.6% of the time. They're able to deliver images to their clients faster, and they get editing as low as 50 cents per image.
Really? As low as 50 cents an image?
You heard that right. Editing as low as 50 cents per image. Ready to find your dedicated editor? Sign up for a free PhotoUp account at PhotoUp.net and send trial images to 3 different dedicated editors. That's right. Try 3 different editors absolutely free.
3 for free. I like that.
So today, when you're all done shooting spaces, head over to PhotoUp.net and hit the sign up button or click the PhotoUp logo on the Shooting Spaces website.
And don't forget to tell them Rich and Brian sent you.
Okay, and we're back. So, Devon, you kind of gave us a little bit of the insight to some of the stuff you're seeing with signups and this and that. But, you talked about, you told me before you want to talk a little bit about your growth numbers and the type of people looking for outsourcing. So let's get into some of the stuff you're seeing from the outsourcing side of things.
Yeah, I think for us, in many ways, like Herb was saying, we're seeing a lot of folks sign up, right? Almost double the amount of signups in so far in 2023 versus 22. We've seen about almost 30% more clients have uploaded. So actually using our system for uploading for outsourcing, right? For photo editing. But overall volume is down for us, right? Not quite to 20%, but it's around there. And we're seeing that number kind of in line with the lower listings and the lesser listings that are just out there nationally. And we also have international clients as well, but predominantly our client base is US. But we are seeing increases in other areas, right? I mentioned virtual staging maybe a little bit earlier, and we talked about that as growing. That grew 40% in the number of batches uploaded year over year for us.
On virtual staging, how does AI affect that? I'm actually kind of curious because I've never really tried yet. I mean, I've done AI for removing stuff. I've never tried AI yet for adding stuff.
Right.
But is that something where it's almost there and ready to start being used for virtual staging?
It's certainly out there and it's getting pretty impressive. We almost see a new company kind of joining in the mix almost weekly, if not for sure monthly. We've worked with a lot of them to try to hone that in and see how we can leverage it. We do a lot of what our virtual staging is right now is in-house, right? Furniture generated with AutoCAD that's placed specifically from a team member of ours that knows how to use AutoCAD, make sure the sizing is correct, make sure the placement's correct, make sure then it goes through editing to get the shadows correct, to make it as photorealistic as possible, right? Now, some of this AI that's out there is good and it's fast. But it doesn't have some of those nuanced things that makes a photo really look photorealistic. That being said,
but it's gonna, the more it ingests, the more it learns. It will get there.
Totally. So I think what we're kind of moving towards now is trying to have levels of virtual staging that involve AI as well. So there's kind of going to be eventually a DIY route where you can just upload a photo, have it edited via AI and staged via AI within minutes, right? That's going to be one level and one price point. You're going to have kind of AI assist where we kind of use the AI from our professional team. Like we talked about earlier, AI is only as good as the person kind of using it and manipulating it. So we're going to train our team on how to use AI. And then we're also going to have a fully customizable virtual staging option. So I think it's just tiers is what we're going to see. And then you kind of pick your route that you want to go on. If you're just wanting to pay $5 for a virtually staged image and have it done in 5 minutes and it looks okay, you can go that route. If you want to spend a little bit more and have it turned around in 12 hours and have it, very specifically placed, pick out any style furniture you want, placement of that furniture, right, as photorealistic as possible, there's a route for you there. So that's kind of what we're seeing, at least from the virtual staging side. I think one of the biggest things just overall in editing that we've seen, though, over the past few years is just this movement to, instead of just typical outsourcing that just kind of you upload your photos and you don't know who edits them, you get them back within a certain amount of time, and the inconsistency and quality might be all over the place. A lot of people are moving to dedicated editors. The value in that is kind of threefold. You're getting better quality from working with one person or a team of people. You're getting more consistency because those people are working on your photos all the time. And then in their downtime, we really have them look at a dedicated editor as an extension of your team, as also a virtual assistant. What else can they do for you? Some of the things we're training our editors and our virtual assistants on now are some of these AI tools. Can you learn it? Can you understand it? Can you actually utilize that to help benefit your client, right? Can you hire a dedicated editor that does the majority of your editing, right? Whenever you have a shoot, they edit for you, but then can they do something else above and beyond just editing? Because at the end of the day, they're a human being. They know how to learn. They know how to communicate. They know how to do other things, and they want to do other things for you, right? They don't necessarily just want to sit behind a computer all day and edit photos. So what we're trying to really leverage is the ability to add a member to your team that's not necessarily just photo editing. That's a portion of what they do. That's a big chunk of what they do. But they can do other things as well. So we've seen that portion of our business double in the past year, and that's been steadily increasing over the past few years.
Devon, what about virtual twilights? That's a big one.
Virtual twilights is another one. Yeah, that like AI.
Is it on the rise?
Yeah, we're seeing more. I would say we're seeing an uptick, not a massive one in twilights. Okay. I just saw a stat the other day that said having a twilight image in your listing for a realtor, right, increases engagement by, I believe it was like 30%. So that's a stat that any photographer can throw out to your clients is, hey, shoot twilights, get more engagement, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, that's possibly regardless of real twilights or virtual twilights.
Right. We do virtual twilights. Yep, absolutely. Day to dusk is what we call it, right? Shoot during the day and we'll edit it to make it look like a dusk shot, or just edit your twilights as normal. So we definitely do all of that. One thing I did want to mention, because I think you guys were talking earlier about kind of HDR versus flambient. And I just wanted to give you some rough numbers on what we're seeing in terms of what people are shooting or what people are uploading to us, at least. Right now, it's about 70% of all uploads that come through PhotoUp are HDR. About 20% of uploads coming through us are flambient. And that's been kind of steadily on the rise over the past few years. And then the last 10% are just single images. So either people shooting a single exterior shot or doing some blending on their end and then uploading us a single image to go ahead and edit off of. So HDR is still predominantly kind of the main player that we're seeing in the space. And again, that is the predominant one amongst the smaller, newer guys for sure.
No, that's interesting. And that's a significant difference too. And I was actually going to ask you, I was kind of curious about those numbers because personally, my opinion on HDR has changed a little bit over the last year and a half, 2 years. And if you asked me 2 or 3 years ago, I'd say, oh, you have to use flash. Oh, you have to use flash. And now I'm kind of, I don't know, shooting less residential real estate has made me more open to the idea of HDR, maybe because I'm doing less residential real estate. So now, I don't want to say completely from the outside looking in, I view it more as a service provider type of job than I ever did before, if that makes any sense. You know, like we say this all the time, we're not creating art, we're providing a service. And if the HDR will get your costs down, which they will, because just time saving alone is getting your costs down, then, you know, as a business owner or a service provider, then that's something you have to look into. You know, Rich, let's say hypothetically you take an hour and a half on a shoot. If you shot HDR and it all of a sudden takes you an hour and you're getting a half hour back on every shoot, and your images look 90% of what they were if they were flash, like as a service provider, is that good enough? Because now you're getting 2 more shoots in a week.
Well,
you know what I mean?
You know what? That's very true if you have high volume. If you don't have high volume, like to me, I mean, I might do HDR on a vacant piece of poo-poo house because actually the HDR looks better than what I can light. And also shot some apartments that were lived in by tenants. And I know from experience, get in and get out ASAP because they want to kill you. Those things are doing that. But for me, I do flambient anyway. But you know, I'm gonna actually, it's flambient's gonna. I mean, how much is your time worth?
Right.
You know, if your time isn't worth if you've got that time, you don't have the high volume, then it's here or there. But I think if you're high volume, yes, absolutely, saving time on a shoot, saving time in editing, and if you want to spend time with your family,
Right.
that is definite. No, that's a no-brainer.
It's 100% correct, Rich. I mean, it's all about efficiency for some people, and it's a combination of efficiency and quality for others, right? And what I think at the end of the day, the big question is, what is your client going to accept, right? And what is your client
exactly?
Accept? So that's
my
that's
clients
a big thing.
are not going to accept HDR, and it's a look, and every so often I'll sneak one in, but I'm always just like, oh God, I don't think I want to even do this. So and even no matter how good the HDR is, I still have yet on a consistent basis to see some of these HDR that I know it's HDR. I can see it. My wife can see it. At least it's not clown vomit. Okay.
All right. So as we're running low on time, let me sort of ask each of you for your respective industries. Exactly, your respective industries. Kind of what, as we close it out, what do you? And I won't hold you to it, but kind of what do you see for the last half of 2023? Where do you see it going? AI aside, because we already dived into that, so let's not go that route. But where do you see things going from each of your respective sides of the industry over the next year, and maybe even 5-year projection? Kind of just give us where you're seeing things go. I'll start with you, Herb.
Sure. Yeah, I think I don't know. This is going to be even just next month will be very interesting, because it was right 4th of July weekend last year where the interest rates spiked and the market started to tank. So our year-over-year projections are slated to improve for the second half of the year, but mainly just because we're comparing to a
down market.
So I have the feeling that there's a bunch of pent-up demand. The average number of shoots per photographer is down, and just the total number of listings is down. But every about 8 years, the real estate market goes through a down cycle. It lasts about 18 months, and I think it'll either be late this fall or next spring when it's my expectation that we're going to see. We're going to go from famine back to feast again, and that pent-up demand is going to come back roaring. At the very beginning, we talked about this, the seasonality. What time of year, the business is at, and June is kind of a flat month. Usually, what we see is there's sort of a second wind in September. So I'm optimistic that this September, once school gets back in and people make those fall moves before it starts to get real cold, that there's enough pent-up demand. If the interest rates will just stabilize long enough, I think that we'll see a good fall, and that'll carry us into and I think next spring will be really good. 5 years, who the heck knows, man? This is a weird business. It could be anything in 5 years from now.
Yeah, no, makes sense. Chris?
Mostly samesies.
Chris, you know what? We have a question, and I'll direct it towards you, because this might, maybe it's the future. I don't know. But Doug asked, what about Apple Vision Pro? And do you see people walking through a house, using this to create 3D tours?
So I'm going to say yes, but only because I want one to play with and test. I realized just the other day that it shows your eyes through the goggles.
Does it?
That's so ridiculous. I think it has stereoscopic camera, so there's a lot of potential there for like depth sensing. I don't know if it has LiDAR. Do you guys know? It has LiDAR built in?
I'm not sure.
Then you're screwed.
I don't know. Anyway, the next iPhone's going to put us out of business anyway, right? So forget about Apple Vision Pro. So I don't have an answer. Maybe we'll have to see that's not out yet, right? The Apple Vision Pro?
I don't think it's out yet.
When it comes out,
2024, I think.
Try to get one and test it, and then I'll answer that question. I don't know what it's capable of. But in terms of future predictions, what we're seeing is volume not it's like down, but we're seeing the season. Our typical real estate season is obviously starts in like, February, March, and is pretty busy and goes a bit crazy. And then there's a dip for the summer when everyone's like, taking vacation. But we're seeing that it's shifted. It's not gone. It's just been moved out. There was hesitancy with regards to people's marketing efforts. So we're kind of predicting that the summer is busier than usual. And then there's the same bump, but it may be a little diminished in the fall, and then we get a bounce back in the spring. So just what Herb said, and we're also predicting that sort of the higher percentage of virtual tours and floor plans and that kind of stuff is just like here to stay, and we'll slowly get more and more adoption and market share based on that new normal. Not 6%, it's more like 12, 15, 20%.
You remember the movie Being There with Peter Sellers? You guys are probably too young.
No.
It just sounded exactly like you were saying. It's going to grow until September. In the fall, we plant and this and that. But but what you're saying is very true. There are always summers are slow. Kids are out of school. Fall is this and that. So I just think it's going to be a decent year. I don't think it's going to be a killer year that we've seen the last 2 or 3 years. But anyway. Go ahead.
Devon, I'll direct it to you.
Yeah. Very similar to both Chris and Herb as well. If I were to make like a concrete prediction that you can hold me to or try to hold me to it in Vegas, and if I'm not correct, I'll buy you drinks, Brian. I think what I'm seeing and hearing from folks is that obviously we paused the interest rate hike at the last Fed meeting. We're likely in for 2 more this year before anything else happens in terms of decreasing those rates. Likely it'll be another pause again before any kind of decrease happens. When that decrease does happen, and it will happen eventually, it is going to open up a little bit of the floodgates. There is pent-up demand. There are people sitting on the sidelines and waiting. I went out and got my real estate license mid-COVID just to do it because I was bored. So I've tried to stay up to speed and beat on kind of what's happening, at least here kind of locally and obviously nationally. So that would be my crystal ball prediction is we are in for kind of an influx once rates start dropping. And if they do continue to drop at a consistent level, we're going to be back to feast times, and it will be good times until then. And again, I don't know exactly when that's going to happen. You got to market, you got to get out there. Herb hit it right on the head, right? The photographers and the people that are out there surviving and thriving right now are working with new clients, are getting themselves out there, are hustling, are finding new ways to market. If you don't do that right now, you're going to be going down, right? You're just going to be in for a rough few months, if not a whole nother year, right? Nobody knows. I don't know either. This is just me shooting the shit with you guys. But at the end of the day, I think you got to plan for the worst, hope for the best. And I think the worst may not be quite here yet. There likely are a few more hikes coming, and that's just going to pause people. People still have to move. It's not going to dry up completely. We've already made it hopefully through the worst of it. It's just going to continue for a little bit longer before it gets better.
Cool. Well, I guess that's good news for all of us. Timothy asked a question, but that's a little bit more business development related. So Timothy, feel free to email Rich or myself, and we'd be happy to tackle that for you. But other than that, I want to thank you all, Herb, Devon, Chris, for coming on with us. And like I said, it was the first time we have you all on, so it was pretty exciting to have you all here. And that's it. Herb from hdphotoup.com, right? GoIGuide.com is Chris, right? Which is, we have to always remember that GoIGuide.com. And PhotoUp.com is pretty easy. So if anyone wants to find out any of the information for each of the services they provide, feel free to please check out their websites. And if you go back and listen to the commercials, I think you all have some pretty special offers that you made to our listeners. So just rewind a little bit, listen to that commercial back, and everyone gives away free stuff. So
And there were no arguments, no fights. You guys got along,
Civil.
and
Yeah.
and it wasn't like a sales pitch. Although you guys gave out some great information, I'm so proud of it.
Well, I'm really thankful for the show that you guys put on. It's such a great value to the industry, and I'm super proud to sponsor it because I think what you guys do adds a lot of value, and really appreciate it.
You know, guys, this episode is 175. It's
crazy.
Yeah, it's a big number.
It is a big number, yeah. So 5 years later.
To you guys. Yeah, and thank you. This is great.
All right. So, Rich.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's I said it again, man. It's just another show wrapped up, and gosh, we had our sponsors here. How great! But yeah, you guys have been loyal to us, and we've had a lot of companies seek us to join on, and we're just happy that we can keep it with you guys. So thank you very much. Thank you everybody out there in podcast land. And as always, go out and it's going to get better before it gets worse, maybe. But just go out there and until we see each other next time, just go shoot some spaces.